The Secretary of the Navy's Advisory Subcommittee on Naval History was formally established in 1956 and is the second oldest of the historical advisory committees within the Department of Defense. History, formally established as a committee of 11 civilians in 1956 as the Secretary of the Navy's Advisory Committee on Naval History. Its direct and immediate antecedent was an ad hoc advisory committee that had met in 1952, 1954, and 1955. Its members are appointed by the Secretary of the Navy to review and advise on the current and future plans of both the Naval History and Heritage Command and the United States Marine Corps History Division of Marine Corps University. In 1996, the committee was made a subcommittee of the Department of Defense Historical Advisory Committee and reports directly to the Secretary of the Navy, and also to the Secretary of Defense through the Department of Defense Historical Advisory Committee. Chairman. The following, listed in chronological order, have served as chairman of the committee. In those cases where individuals have also served as individual members, the names and dates are also shown separately for that service in the alphabetical list of members. Waldo G. Leland, 1955 to 1964. Elmer L. Kaiser, 1970 to 1972. Walter Muir Whitehill, 1972. Richard W. Leopold, William D. Wilkinson, David Allen Rosenberg, 1995 to 2005. John Hattendorf, 2006 to 2008. Robert B. Peary, Jr., 2009. Members. The following is an alphabetical list of committee members who have served since 1952, with their dates of service as members. Committee chairs are listed above with their dates as chairman. Arthur D. Baker, 3, 1985. John D. Barnhart, 1955 to 1963. James Finney Baxter, 3, 1952 to 1964. Captain Edward L. Beach, Jr., USN, 1992. Whitfield J. Bell, Jr., 1972 to 1980. Samuel Flagg Bemis, 1955 to 1964. David R. Bender, 1992. Francis L. Berkeley, Jr., 1966 to 1982. Julian P. Boyd, 1952 to 1966. Marion L. Brewington, 1966 to 1974. R.A.D.M. Thomas A. Brooks, USN, 2003 to 2007. C.D.R. Wesley A. Brown, CEC, USN, 1996 to 2002. Frank G. Burke, 1996 to 2002. J. Reville Carr, 1996. Charles C. Chadbourne, 3, 2008. LTGENG Ronald Christmas, USMC, 2008. Edward E. Dale, 1952. John C. Dange, 1992. VADM Robert F. Dunn, 1996 to 2002. VADM George W. Emery, USN, 1997 to 2006. James T. Farrell, 1954. James A. Field, Jr., 1980 to 1985. RADM Max E. Gaston, USN, -2007. RADM Russell W. Gorman, USN, 1992 to 1996. Jose Marie Griffiths, 1996 to 2002. Joy Bright Hancock, 1976 to 1985. Captain R. Robinson Harris, USN, 2002. Carol P. Haskins, 1970 to 1982. John Hattendorf, 2004-2005. Robert Henry, 1954. Jim Danhill, 1954 to 1982. RADM William J. Holland, Jr., USN, 2008, Christine Hughes, 2004, Donald D. Jackson, 1972–1980, Beverly Schreiber Jacobi, 1996–2005, Richard L. Georges, 1992, Captain W. Spencer Johnson IV, USN, 2007, Richard L. Utras, 1996, RADM John T. Kavanaugh, SC, USN, 2007, Elmer L. Kaiser, 1952–1976, John H. Campbell, 1961–1985, T. Bacarix, 1952, RADM John M. Kirsch, USN, 2002–2005, VADM William P. Lawrence, USN, 1992, Susan Livingston, 2007, J.P. London, 2007, Burt Logan, 2003–2007, Leonard W. Laborie, 1966–1969, Waldo G. Leland, 1952–1964, Richard W. Leopold, 1955–1982, William E. Lingelbach, 1956–1960, Augustus P. Loring, 1982–1985, Duma Malone, 1954, Jan E. Mandeville, 1985, Vera D. Mann, 1992–1996, AMBJ, William Middendorf II, 1992–1996, VADM Gerald D. Miller, USN, 1992, Elting E. Morrison, 1972–1976, Alan Nevins, 1956–1969, Michael A. Palmer, 2007, Howard H. Peckham, 1972–1976, Norman Palmer, 2007, Forrest C. Pogue, 1970–1985, Fred H. Rainbow, 2007, ADMJ, Paul Reason, USN, 2008, James R. Reckner, 2002, Clark G. Reynolds, 1992, David Allen Rosenberg, 1993–2005, MGEN Clifford L. Stanley, USMC, 2008, William Lloyd Stearman, 2004–2008, Daniel F. Stella, 1992, William N. Still, Jr., 1996–2005, Gordon B. Turner, 1972–1980, Betty Miller Unterberger, 1992–1996, Walter P. Webb, 1954, Walter Muir Whitehill, 1952–1972, William D. Wilkinson, 1996, Virginia Steelwood, 2002–2007, Captain Channing M. Zucker, USN, 2007, Charter of the Secretary of the Navy's Advisory Subcommittee on Naval History. A official designation. The subcommittee shall be known as the Secretary of the Navy's Advisory Subcommittee on Naval History. B. Background, objectives, and scope of activities. Formally established as a committee of 11 civilians in 1956 as the Secretary of the Navy's Advisory Committee on Naval History, this body had as its direct and immediate antecedent an ad hoc advisory committee that met in 1952, 1954, and 1955. In 1996, the committee was made a subcommittee of the Department of Defense Historical Advisory Committee. The current SNAS reports to the Department of Defense Historical Advisory Committee through the Secretary of the Navy. The SNAS, under the provisions of the Federal Advisory Committee Act of 1972, shall provide independent advice and recommendations on matters pertaining to preserving the heritage and legacy of the naval service and disseminating its rich history to the service and the American public, to include professional standards, methodology, program priorities, and cooperative relationships in the Marine Corps and Navy's historical research and publication, museum, archival, archaeological, library, manuscript collection, rare book collection, art collection, preservation, and curatorial activities. The Secretary of the Navy may act upon the SNAS's advice and recommendations. C. Committee membership. The SNAS shall be composed of not more than 15 members, who are appointed by the Secretary of the Navy on the advice of the Assistant Secretary of the Navy. The SNAS shall submit nominations to the Assistant Secretary of the Navy. The Director of Naval History and the President of the Marine Corps University shall make the recommendations for membership to the SNAS. As a nominating committee, nominees will include individuals who have broad managerial experience, vision, and understanding in one or more of the following areas: military and maritime history, archives, museology, art, library science, information technology. Members may also include former senior civilian Department of the Navy officials and retired Navy and Marine Corps personnel. Members appointed by the Secretary of the Navy, who are not federal officers or employees, shall serve as special government employees under the authority of 5 U.S.C. Section 3109, and shall be appointed for a term of 4 years with the possibility of a 1 to 2 year extension, with the exception of travel and per diem for official travel. Subcommittee members shall serve without compensation. The SNAS shall elect its own chair and vice-chair from its appointed members. D. Committee meetings. The SNAS shall meet at the call of the alternate designated federal officer in consultation with the chairperson. The estimated number of SNAS meetings is 1 per year. The alternate designated federal officer shall be a full-time or permanent part-time employee, and shall be appointed in accordance with established policies and procedures. The designated federal officer and/or alternate designated federal officer shall attend all SNAS meetings. E. Duration of the subcommittee. The need for this advisory function is on a continuing basis, however, it is subject to renewal every 2 years. F. Agency support. The Department of the Navy, through the Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, shall provide support as deemed necessary for the performance of the committee's functions, and shall ensure compliance with the requirements of 5 U.S.C. Appendix, as amended. G. Termination date. The subcommittee shall terminate upon completion of its mission or 2 years from the date this charter is filed, whichever is sooner, unless it is extended by the Secretary of the Navy of the Department of Defense Historical Advisory Committee. H. Operating costs. The operating costs will include travel costs and contract support for the SNAS. The estimated annual personnel support cost to the Department of Defense is 0.3 full-time equivalents. I. Record keeping. The records of the SNAS shall be handled according to Section 2, General Records Schedule 26 and appropriate policies and procedures. These records shall be available for public inspection and copying, subject to the Freedom of Information Act of 1966. J. Charter Revisions Approval Process. Subcommittees of the Historical Advisory Committee are authorized to approve their own charters, but they cannot operate independently of the Historical Advisory Advisory Committee. Regardless of the charter, SNAS remains a subcommittee of the parent committee. This subcommittee charter was initially approved unanimously by all SNAS members present at the SNAS executive session that took place on 12 September 2008. Revisions may be made with the concurrence of a vote of 2/3 of the appointed members and will be forwarded for information by the SNAS to the Historical Advisory Committee when such revisions are made. Charter filed the 12th of September 2008.